Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice of radio, so today I'm going to be showing you a new Gardevoir card that, to be completely and utterly frank and blunt, it's really good. Now, this has been shown off and translated by the lovely David Hochmann over at RappelmannTCG, or limitlesstcg.com/translations. He is both, he is lovely, and there's a lot to like about this Gardevoir. Now, it's got 130 HP. Now, on the one hand, 130 is one of those key numbers. It means that stuff that does 120, think Golisopod, Zoroark, I mean, you've got resistance, but if you didn't, Zoroark, they're not going to be able to get a one-hit KO. They are going to fall 10 damage short, and that is quite lovely. On the other hand, it's a stage 2. We expect more. Stage 2s like Empoleon and Dragonite have 160 HP. That's kind of what we expect in the Sun and Moon era. 130 is pretty gosh darn low. It's not the end of the world, but it's not particularly inspiring. I mean, Gardevoir GX was down at 230, so maybe we should have been expecting this, but even so, not ideal, ladies and gentlemen. Not ideal. Now, you do have the aforementioned resistance to darkness, which is pretty good with Zoroark running around. Having said that, it wasn't going to one-hit KO you, even if you didn't have resistance. Weakness to metals, quite nice. I mean, Duskmane Necrozma will do 120 for free energy, so the 130 HP will help you out. Metal could be seeing a bit of a comeback with some of these fairy Pokemon getting good. It's not the worst weakness to have. And a retreat cost of 2 sucks, because you do not get free retreat with a skateboard post-rotation, when, given that Floatstone is rotating out, we would kind of like that. As for being a fairy Pokemon, we're losing our tricks like Fairy Garden, unfortunately, to the rotation, but it is Gardevoir. So you can use it in Gardevoir decks, and I should remind you at this stage that Gardevoir and Gardevoir GX have different names. So you can play 4 Gardevoir and 4 Gardevoir GX in your deck. You can still only play 4 Routes and 4 Curlier, but you can still play a variety. And the thing to remember here, and this is super important to looking at how good this card is, we're losing Gallade to the rotation. Gallade has, since Gardevoir came out in Burning Shadows, been the non-GX attacker in Gallade decks, and we're losing it. We need a non-GX attacker. This will fill in the spot that Gallade left quite nicely indeed. Now, the first attack here, according to David, for a single fairy energy, lets you search your deck for any free cards and put them into your hand. It is weirdly Steven's Resolve. I know, right? It's the same thing. Now, to be fair, Steven's Resolve is a supporter card, but it ends your turn in the same way this does, because it's an attack. And this is quite nice. Now, on a stage 2, I mean, realistically, best case scenario. Turn 1, you get your routes down. Turn 2, you get your rare candy into Gardevoir. And then you get to use this for a single energy. The good news is that your opponent isn't going to be able to end you by the time this comes out. We will be post-rotation. So your opponent can Judge, but Judge is likely to see a bit less play. Judge isn't a good draw supporter. Early game end gets you a new hand of 6 cards, and that's really nice. Whereas Judge gets you a hand of 4 cards and is not ideal. So it's more likely you're going to be able to survive with this, as in not get your hand wrecked, than you would in an N format. I mean, to put it another way, Metagross GX has a GX attack, again, stage 2 single energy, that searches for any 5 cards, and it's a GX attack. This is any 3 cards, and it's a normal attack. And look, this is phenomenal, because essentially what you're going to be able to do here is, as long as you've got 1 rare candy or Gardevoir in your hand, you search so that you've then got 2 rare candy, 2 Gardevoir for next turn, and your 1 Gardevoir this turn turns into 3 Gardevoir next turn. That's pretty gosh darn nice. It is a phenomenal attack to help you set up, but I don't know that I can fully recommend it, because first of all, you've actually got to get the stage 2 out. Secondly, it's your attack for the turn that does no damage. And thirdly, Even though it's less likely than it is nowadays, your opponent could still play something like a Judge, and it would be a waste. A nice attack if you've got nothing else. If you've got no good attack to be using this turn, it's absolutely fine, but it's not something you should be rushing to be using. Honestly, most of the time you'd probably be better off with Steven's Resolve, because at least then you could leave a Pokemon in the active that you didn't mind getting KO'd. Using this to search for free cards, then watching it get KO'd, could end up having a fairly negative effect, because you lose your Gardevoir. But as fun as that is, it really is the second attack that makes us feel all warm and fuzzy on our insides. Fairy double colourless, 70 damage. If you played a supporter card this turn, this attack does 90 more damage. And you know how I said this was basically a replacement for Gallade? It's even basically got the same attack. Now, on the one hand, Gallade only did 130, whereas this does 160. But on the other hand, this is for free energy rather than 2, although both of them could and will use double colourless energy. Now, in terms of the attack cost here, you shouldn't worry your pretty little heads about it, because you're going to be playing this with Gardevoir GX. Gardevoir GX has Secret Spring, so essentially you just use Secret Spring to attach a fairy energy for the turn, then you attach a double colourless, you're off and rolling. Gallade you could get going in one turn if you didn't have a Gardevoir GX on the field. This you can't, but most of the time you will anyway, so it's not as huge of a problem, to be perfectly honest. And on the one hand, this doesn't hit weakness against Zoroark, and interestingly enough, unless you play something like a Professor Kukui, you won't be getting a one-hit KO here. But with a choice band, you're hitting 190, which is so much better. The thing with Gallade was, you would get a one-hit KO on Zoroark, you'd be hitting 160 with a choice band on other stuff, you would be struggling to get one-hit KOs here. On a non-GX, you're hitting 160, so those Pokemon we mentioned earlier, like Empoleon, go down in a single hit. With a choice band, you're hitting 190, so stuff like Buzzwole goes down in one hit to this. Or something like Necrozma goes down in one hit to this. Or Duskmane Necrozma, that we worried about hitting us for weakness, goes down in one hit to this. And then, of course, you're hitting stuff like Rayquaza for weakness. Not that you need to, because you'd be getting a one-hit KO anyway. And Ultra Necrozma for weakness. So for those Pokemon, you don't even need to be playing a choice band in order to get a one-hit KO here. This hits the numbers beautifully. And that is really the main attraction of this particular attack. You're hitting 160, which is enough to KO pretty much any non-GX. Alright, you're not getting my boy Mamoswine, but almost any other non-GX is going down to this. And then when you add a choice band, there are Pokemon like Zoroark with 210 that get away, but most of the good GXs at the moment have 190 or less HP, and you'll be getting a straight one-hit KO with this attack. It's great. Yes, you've got to add another energy on over Gallade, but this really might be mitigated by the fact that you're hitting the numbers so beautifully. And this is going to just go straight into Gardevoir decks as a replacement for Gallade, but make no mistake about it, this would be absolute minimum a one-of, even if Gallade was still in the format. Gallade was a great change of pace, a non-GX with a different weakness that could take KOs or do a bunch of damage without giving up 2 prizes. This has the same weakness as Gardevoir GX, but it still only gives up 1 prize, it's still got a decent amount of HP, less than Gallade, but still a decent amount of HP. And to be honest, the biggest problem is you've got to have a Gardevoir GX on your bench here, which is a slight issue, because then your opponent can Guzma and KO it, and a lot of the time, if you were playing and going heavy Gallade, you just leave Gardevoir off your bench entirely. But then again, maybe turn 1 you get a Fairy Energy on here, search for free cards, and yes, one of the ones you search for will be a double colourless, and then turn 2 you're off and rolling with this attack. It is a great, great attack on a great non-GX, and it's not like a lot of Stage 2s where we look at it and go, oh, it's a Stage 2, that's a problem. Gardevoir is a good, viable deck. I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to go ahead and use this, because if we're playing Gardevoir, we're going to be playing it. I suppose I should have mentioned that Sylveon GX's Magical Ribbon is exactly the same as Gardevoir's attack, And actually, in the same way that people have been playing a thin line of Gardevoir in Sylveon decks, you can even play a thin line of this Gardevoir instead. I like this a lot. I expect it to see a lot of play. Honestly, I still think you need Gardevoir GX because you need that second energy. You need that fairy energy plus the double colorless for the main attack. But I could see this being the focus of a deck on its own with Gardevoir GX supporting rather than Gardevoir being the main Pokemon and this being a change of pace. It's a 4-WOSY card and it might even be better than that. I really could see people playing this in Gardevoir but switching it round to its largely the non-GX with the GX just as a supporting role. But I want to know what you think about this. I want to know how likely you think this is to see a lot of play. So let me know in the comment section. Please go nuts, but remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.